Alright, it's Liam. I want to thank everyone at the Oasis Podcast. As you were.
Hello and welcome back to the Oasis Podcast, the ultimate audio guide to Oasis. Hope you guys are all right. Today it's a very special episode. It is episode 250, which is very exciting. It's always nice to hit these sort of landmarks. I didn't think, almost 7 years ago now that we'd be hitting 250, but here we are. It's been a crazy time, and thank you very much for coming with me on the journey. Now, with all these sort of things, I always want like a big episode to have a special theme, something different, to really make it stand out a little bit. And today, what I wanted to do was, because I didn't have a like special interview lined up or a live event or something like that. So what I thought I would do was debut this place where I am, which we're probably calling Supernova Studios, I reckon. What do you think? Can you think of a better name? But yeah, let's go with Supernova Studios for now. So here we have, basically I've built a garden office. Well, not me, I haven't built anything. I've watched other people build a garden office and I've paid for it. And so, and as it's for work and stuff, but it's also for the Oasis podcast and it's fantastic. So if you are listening to the audio of this right now, then obviously you can go and check out Patreon or YouTube, where you'll be able to watch the video version of this. But just to clarify, we are still going to be doing audio versions for those of you that don't want to see my face, which is very understandable. And also I know a lot of you just sort of don't really like YouTube and don't like video stuff, and you much prefer the audio side, which is absolutely fine. So whichever way you want to enjoy it, it's fine. I don't think every episode I'll do video. I always prefer my interviews to be audio, to be honest. I will do a Zoom and sometimes we'll have the video on and stuff, but I don't know. I think that if you're on video, you sort of slightly feels a bit different. I prefer audio interviews on podcasts, so we'll probably keep doing those. But anyway, we'll see how it goes and how it develops. I'm always interested in your feedback. So if you are watching on YouTube, this is Supernova Studios, and so one of the things I was going to do today is just talk you through it and let you know what we've got, and also I've got some little mementos and little things here, so we can have a bit of a history of the Oasis podcast today. I don't always like to look back and do too much of that stuff, but actually it's a big episode. It's a quarter of a millennium, and so I think it's sort of fair enough to do a bit of a looking back and do that. But first off, as you can see on the TV behind me, if you're watching on YouTube, Liam and John. Liam and John is the big news. Their album went to #1, did extremely well. And and they've been out touring. They've been generally getting good reviews. I think that the main criticism has been that, it's a pretty short set. It's only kind of literally the album, plus they've been covering Jumping Jack Flash, which, to be fair, it's understandable. But, if you're paying 70 quid a ticket plus, then, maybe you expect a little bit more. Personally, I don't mind too much. I think that actually, I haven't gone to see them. I did try to get tickets and I failed. But, I did, I don't actually, I'm not normally too bothered. I'm like, actually, after a gig, after about half an hour, 40 minutes, I'm normally pretty happy to leave, to be honest. So I'm not too concerned about that. And I suppose, as I've seen on the videos and things, that because people don't know the music, it's not like a typical Oasis gig where people are chucking pints around and getting all Larry and stuff. It is pretty chill as compared to, proper Oasis gigs and Liam gigs, where even Liam solo stuff does get people going nuts these days. So it is it's a different gig experience from what I've seen on videos and from what we've heard from people. And and we'll be hearing a couple of reviews and things coming up shortly. And stop the clocks. We've had a message in from Sai from the Champagne Supernobar, just giving some of his thoughts on the Liam and John album. So let's have a little bit of this.
Yeah, hi mate, it's Si calling from Halifax, Champagne Supernobar. Just wanted to give a quick update on my opinion on the new John Squire, Liam Gallagher album. For me, one of the most underrated albums of all time, and I know that is a massive statement. There's a lot of negativity around this album, but for me, the first time I ran it through, I thought, like many, I thought, what the hell is this? What direction is this going in? But the more and more time I've listened to it, I mean, I'm probably lucky that I've probably had it on about 100 times, maybe more. And it's so meaningful and deep, and I think you jump from era to era, be it the Beatles or, like you mentioned on the pod, the Who, influences like that. And I think your Quadrophenia reference that you made, that's spot on as well, and that just fits that song so well. But these songs are going to be around forever. These are going to be songs that in 10 years people are still going to be playing. They're not going to disappear. I mean, Squire on that guitar, oh my God, it just brings Liam's music to another level. And his vocal, how John Squire has written them lyrics without having Liam in mind to actually sing them. I think he said that initially he was looking for a lady to sing it. Well, them lyrics and the way Liam sings that song, it's almost like they have been written for Liam's voice. And his voice is sounding better than ever. There's a lot of people complaining that the actual gigs, Barrowlands and Wolves, that have happened so far, I think the set's 50 minutes and you've paid 75, 80 quid a ticket. So yeah, but I think personally, value for money for me. If I could get my hands on a ticket for that price next week and be at Leeds or Manchester, I would be, because these are them gigs, them small gigs, which they're going to be one of them sort of gigs where you think, I wish I were there, or why didn't I get a ticket for it? Because it is, it's magical. I think the combination of Squire and Liam together, the voice and the guitar, is spectacular. So yeah, for me, massively underrated. And I know, like I said, massive statement, but one of the most underrated albums of all time. Just another quick little side note as well about the album cover. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but great artists create art that makes people talk about it. Controversial, there's a lot of speculation and debate. Is it good? Is it bad? That is art to me, with my little knowledge of what fucking art is. My understanding is that a great artist can create a piece of work that causes all them things I've just mentioned, and it gets people talking. Now, in my 41 years of being alive, I've never known an album cover be talked about and debated as much as this one has. Yeah, it's a bit Marmite. Some will love it, some will hate it. I think it's class because it causes that debate, and it's caused a lot of people to look at this album that maybe wouldn't normally. And if you don't want to buy it and you don't like the artwork, don't fucking buy it. And if you do love it, buy it. It's like the music. If you don't like the tunes, don't go to the fucking gig. If you like the music, go to the fucking gig. It's one of them, innit? You either love it or you hate it. If you love it, enjoy it. If you hate it, just fuck off. And the only dodgy lyric I've come across, this is probably the most dodgiest lyric on the whole album, is on I'm a Wheel, when he sings about there's blood in my custard. Now, fucking hell, talk about a lyric that could have multiple meanings. Jesus Christ. Good to speak to you, mate. Hope you're well. Bye-bye.
Great stuff. Thank you, Si. And if I do need to get up to Halifax and check out the Champagne Supernobar. But yeah, blood in my custard. That is a lyric and a half in it. And personally, I'm on the side that I don't think the album cover's that great. I like the individual items, like the Just Another Rainbow, I think is great. But the way they're sort of combined on the album cover, I don't think it's great. So according to Si, I've got to fuck off, which is fair enough. Also, we have had a message in from our good friend Andy Middleton, who went to see Liam and John in Newcastle.
Hi, James, Andy here. Just want to drop in a short review of the Liam and John gig on Monday night just gone at Bootlegs City Hall in Newcastle. I was lucky enough to get tickets and was pretty surprised they were playing there, to be honest. Bit of a random sort of venue when you look at, although I suppose most of the venues they're playing on this show tour are pretty random. Got there about 7 o'clock. There was a huge queue around the block for the doors opening at 7, probably for everyone wanting to, well, I thought everyone wanting to get in and get in front of Liam. When we got in there, most of the people had gone into the bar, so we were fortunate enough to get pretty much right at the front, in between where sort of stage right as you're looking at the right, in between where John and Liam would be coming on. Jacob was supporting. He came on about 8:15, something like that. Did about 12 songs. I'm not like a big fan of Jacob, to be honest. Wasn't really familiar with much of his stuff other than sort of the hits which he played right at the end, Two Fingers and Lightning Bolt. But I was well impressed. He was just him and his acoustic guitar, no band or anything. What really surprised us was he had this really deep. He was like, "Hi, I'm Jake Bud." And then he's like singing in this really high, sort of screechy, almost Scouse type voice. Didn't see that coming, so that was a surprise. That was an excellent performance, well received by the crowd. Just a bit on the crowd actually before going into the Liam and John gig. Mostly, I would say, couples in there. No like groups of lads or groups of girls. Like no sort of misbehaving. Everyone was well behaved in the crowd. No pints of piss getting chucked about as per the Oasis gig. No one pushing and shoving. It was really, it was busy. It was hot and it was pretty packed because it was sold out. But very well behaved crowd. No crowd surging or anything like that. So kind of got my position and stuck there and had a good view of the stage. So that was really, really unusual. Not what I was expecting, to be honest. But, probably because of the price of the tickets and put off all the charmers. Then Jacob went off. There was about half an hour's waiting, and Liam and John came on to obviously everyone screaming and screeching. Chance of Liam, Chance of Squire. Fantastic reception for them. And they kicked in just another rainbow straight away. And I remember you saying, I think it was on my Discord channel, that you bet that in the summer everyone's chanting the colours of the rainbow back at them, and that's exactly what happened. You totally predicted that right, and even I was doing it and I hate it. But don't hate the song now, I quite like the song, but hate that bit of it. But when everyone chanted it back, Liam just came up to the mic and just shouted, "I fucking knew it." So he's obviously seen stuff in the media saying how ridiculous people think that Bootlegs, but they sang it back. All the songs were absolutely spot on compared to my sort of view of the album when I had my first couple of initial listens. Didn't really rate it, but it completely come to life in the live situation. Probably highlight for me was obviously Mars to Liverpool, which everyone loves, but You're Not the Only One. Absolutely love that song. Fantastic live, everyone's singing it. I'm a Wheel as well, that went down really well. Apart from some bloke who got his kid on his shoulders right in front of us during that song, so we totally blocked off the view of the stage. Bit selfish, but there you go. All in all, brilliant gig. Bit of an odd one, Liam. It's the first time I've been that close up to him. Bit sort of emotional, really, but kept sort of like stalking around the stage, going to the side, putting his head against the speakers, sort of rattling his maracas a bit during all of John's, and he did quite a few of them, John's sort of bluesy wig outs at the end of each song. Then he would just go and sit on the drum riser, shake his maracas a bit. And then he had this scarf kind of underneath his top, and he pulled that out and wrapped it around his face and just stood in the middle of the stage with this like scarf mask thing on, which was a bit odd. But while John was like freaking out doing a blues wig out on his guitar. Then I think finished on Raise Your Hands before they came on to do the encore of Jumpin' Jack Flash. That's when he chucked the tambourine onto the top balcony. There was a massive brawl to try and get it. Some young lad won it out. So that was quite funny. Then he chucked his microphone into the crowd after Jumpin' Jack Flash as well. So someone got a couple of nice souvenirs there from the night. All in all, absolutely brilliant gig. Loved it. Pleased I went. Wasn't bothered about it being under an hour long. It was long enough, and it didn't seem like a short gig to me. It was fantastic. Just loved it. So a couple of pints afterwards, and then off to bed a bit earlier than usual after a gig. So that was good for work the next day. So that was it. Cheers. Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much, top man Andy. And back to me. One of the other things that's come up is Raise Your Hands is now a single, kind of, apparently. It's been released as a video anyway. So I'm not really sure what that means these days, but yeah, it's kind of out there as a single. And obviously I talked about it on the last episode. I really like it. I think that's a really good one. It's a really great way to start the album. So yeah, it was a good choice of single, if that's what it was. And then I suppose the other thing to say is that they were on, they did quite a lot of media over the last sort of couple of weeks. The main thing being Jonathan Ross, which was the big one. That was the one that, your dad probably texted you, or your mum probably phoned you and said, oh, that Liam guy is on Jonathan Ross tonight. So they were on Jonathan Ross, and it was entertaining. I think that, Liam's getting really good at that sort of stuff now. John Squire, he's never been that good. He's always sort of been quite chill and I think quite kind of aware of, he doesn't like to have the piss taken out of him. So you can just see him sort of looking very wary of Jonathan Ross, like, what are you playing at here? But he is quite sharp, and he did come back with a couple of little moments that I thought were entertaining. But then he's almost then like playing up that whole thing that he's really quiet. So yeah. Anyway, it was enjoyable. My favourite story that Liam told was probably about his dog he got, the rescue dog, Buttons, which I just think is really sweet. The way he talks about his dog, and he obviously loves the dog, and it's sort of just very, very cute. He even sort of says, oh no, he's perfect. And it's completely genuine. He's not sort of, people ask me about my dog and I'll kind of like, yeah, well, he's a bit of pain, but you don't sort of just say, oh yeah, I love him. I love my dog. Like, he's perfect. You just wouldn't say that really. But to be just so out there on TV as well, when he is such like a macho geezer, I just think it's great. So that's really, really nice to see. But yeah, I thought the performance of Master Liverpool was good. I think Liam sang it really well. It is high. It's a tricky one to sing, but I thought he did a really good job with it. I think the band that they've got currently is pretty good. I think that they've sort of done what they need to do. I think from the live reviews and stuff, the band are apparently playing pretty well at the moment. So yeah, all in all, it's been a fun week of Liam and John being out there, getting to number one and playing these gigs, really. I think as I'm recording this, it is Wednesday night in Manchester tonight. So yeah, that's if people are going to that, I hope you guys enjoy it. I think it's been funny that there was sort of a bit of a guessing game going on with whether he was going to do covers or what they were going to do. I think he replied on Twitter and said something like 1-2 when someone had mentioned the Rolling Stones. And so it's like, oh, does that mean he's going to play one Rolling Stone songs or two? But as it turned out, he was saying 1-2 because they say that in Jumping Jack Flash. So that's kind of what they said. But yeah, so it's been a good week with Liam and John being out there. It's always great to have Liam out there doing his thing. And yeah, it's just great. John Squire, obviously, what a guitar player. There he is. Yeah, it's just it's great to have them out and about. And number one record, which is always very, very impressive for these guys that are 52 and 61 to be going out there and getting a number one album. It's pretty crazy. And then on the Noel side of things, I suppose Noel has been busy. He's played the first of a couple of warm-up gigs down on the South Coast. He played a gig in Poole, which is like a warm-up gig for the Teenage Cancer Trust gig coming up. There's nothing particularly crazy or outrageous. I think that the only thing really that sort of sprung out was that he'd covered Stand By Me, or covered it, you know what I mean? He played Stand By Me, which I thought was good. It came across really well. It didn't feel like significantly different, like the reworkings of Live Forever and things that they've done. And he did have the crowd singing for quite a lot of it as well. But yeah, so that was cool. Stand By Me. He also did Talk Tonight as well, apparently. I haven't found a Talk Tonight on YouTube yet. It must be there. I need to have a look, actually. If I do find it, I'll drop it in here. And yeah, so yeah, it's good to see Noel back out there again. He's got another one coming up in Bournemouth, and then the Teenage Cancer Trust gig. And I believe that Richard's going to that. I believe a couple of other regulars from the pod are going to that as well. So we'll maybe catch up and do a review with those guys next week for the next episode, which would be very exciting. Just to say, I've got a gig booked in for... The only person I'm seeing so far is Liam at Reading Festival. I'm going to Reading, which is really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. Going to the full weekend and trying to get press accreditation. So I've already paid for tickets. I'm not trying to get any freebies, but just to be able to get in and get access and potentially interviews. I doubt very much I'll get an interview with Liam, but just the opportunity to be in the press area would be great. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. So that's all. Anything else in the world of Noel? No, I think that's okay. The only other thing in the world of Oasis, obviously we're going to come round now to the sort of anniversaries and things for 30 years, definitely maybe obviously coming up. They have released, it's just been announced, a reissue of Supersonic, because we're coming up to the 30th anniversary of Supersonic on April the 11th, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just a bog standard kind of Oasis cash-in reissue, to be honest. They're just re-releasing it with the original B-sides, with no changes. It's just knocking it back out again. So, you know, I'm sure the collectors will love it, the collectors will buy it, but I won't be bothering. So there we go. So it's a shame because, you know, there's more they could be doing. You know, could you maybe go and do, you know, recording with the real people, or go to like the original, what is it, Pink Studios where it was recorded? You know, there's plenty of stuff they could do, but not happening, is it? There we are. So I think that's all the news, I believe. So as we're here, I was going to talk through a few random bits and pieces. So we've got our got the guitars on the wall. That's my acoustic. That's my Hofner bass. It's a very cheap version of the McCartney Hofner bass, but I think if I leave it out, I might actually go and play it a bit more to try and get decent on the bass. I think I was offered to join a Oasis tribute band a couple of years ago. And he said, "Oh, you come and you play the bass, don't you?" I was like, I'm not really good enough. And I can, you know, obviously Oasis bass lines are pretty simple as compared to, you know, Stone Roses or someone like that. But actually still, you know, to actually sit and play for a full set of songs, nah, I'm not good enough. But anyway, so that's it. If you are tweeting at me or something, tell me to practice the bass and I'll give it a go. Let's just talk through a few other bits, shall we? So this is the original microphone that I recorded most of the first sort of, well, probably from like episode 10 to episode 220 or something. So I've got a little Stay Young sticker on it as well, because why not? So yeah, this was my trusty blue mic. It did me for a long time. It did absolutely fine. Yeah, it's just like the connection where the USB goes in there. It just broke after a while and it was just going wrong for a bit and then it just died because that connection. So it could probably be fixed, I suppose, but you know, it was only like 15 quid or something, so I wasn't too bothered. But anyway, so when people ask me about kind of, you know, my process and the recording process, I mean, literally for the first kind of year and a lot of the interviews were just done using a phone, you know, just literally using a phone. I think a lot of the episodes I did when I was doing interviews, especially in the early days before the pandemic and people got into Zoom, I would be literally with an iPad or a phone there and a phone there, and I'd have the phone on speaker and I'd be just holding it near the iPad and trying to get the levels right. And that was literally all I did. You know, and so when you see these people set up with all like, you know, these fancy kind of recorders and like microphones and things, you just think like, wow, God, I was actually making one of the most successful music podcasts in the UK, literally like with a phone, and that's it. And and in editing, all I do is my on my laptop. I've now got a MacBook with a Microdot sticker on it, because why the hell not? I bought a Microdot t-shirt a couple of years back or maybe a year or so ago. Got the Microdot sticker with it as well, so that goes on there. So yeah, so I just use Audacity, which is like a free program that I use on my Mac, And I say it was only a Mac. I got the Mac fairly recently as well. Actually, I had just like a crappy old laptop that I recorded on for years. So literally, the point I'm making, I suppose, is if I can do it with my level of technical knowledge, anyone can do it. So yeah, there we go. So that's a bit of behind the scenes. So let's have a talk through some other stuff, shall we? So this is very special to me, if you can hear that. That is my Tony McCarroll drum skin. To James' best wishes, Tony McC. So we got that from the first Water Rats live show I did, where I interviewed Tony, and that was probably like the best one. We've done a few live events, but that one was really special. Sorry to the guys that came to Glasgow, and that one was brilliant as well with Tony. But the Water Rats, that one, I think it was extra special as well because I played with the band. My old bandmates, the five of us were there. 3 of us played, Joel on piano, me singing, and Romain playing drums. And it was great. That was really good to sort of, to get to do that. From the years we've been in the band, we probably, the most people we played in front of was about 30 or 40. Oh no, tell a lie. We did one gig at the Rock Garden that was pretty good. That was probably like 100. But yeah, there was 200 people there that night, crammed in. 200 people doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot when you're playing in front of them. And that was like really exciting. Interviewed Tony on stage, which was great. Got a lot of the guys to come on and do songs and things like that. Did some different Oasis covers and things. So it was a really, really special night. And then a massive thanks to Ryan Harvey, who we're going to mention a few times today, I think, because it was him that actually got that for me. Because Tony was doing these and he was selling them on the night. But he didn't have these Oasis stickers. Ryan sort of bought those with him. And so we stuck that Oasis sticker on. And and without him telling me, he went and gave Tony a few quid and got him to do that. So that was really kind. And I've been very grateful to Ryan ever since because, he didn't need to do that. But very exciting to have that. So that's really great. And just to say on the live events, I'd love to get back out there and do them again. As I said, in 2019, we did Tony McCarroll in Water Rats. We did Alan McGee in Water Rats and Arlington Arts Centre, and then Tony McCarroll in Glasgow. And and so they were great. They were really good. Plus, also I went to a Star-Shaped event as well that I did. I sort of co-hosted with the Magic Mod that event. That was really good. But I didn't do the interview for that one. McGee did an interview on stage, but I didn't do it. But it was cool. We were doing like a quiz on stage and chucking stuff out. And Richard got all the questions right. I think Dan Best got a few questions right as well. But so we're throwing out merchandise and things, which was really good fun. So I'd love to get back out and do some more live stuff. Actually, this Saturday, I'm going to be down watching Ian Armstrong, who's been on the podcast. His band, Oasis Supernova, are playing in Southampton. So if you are around in Southampton, if you go into that gig, or if you want to try and get to that gig, come on down. I'm going to be bringing the recorder with me. So not a recorder, but or maybe a tin whistle. But I'll be bringing an audio recording device, and we're going to be doing some recording on the day. I'll interview Ian and the guys. It's actually not just an Oasis gig. It's like a festival. There's like Stone Roses tribute. Really excited to go to that. If you can make it, it's this Saturday, which if you're hearing this in time. So anyway, check that out. Where were we? So let's have a look at some other bits and pieces then. So we've got a couple of bits of memorabilia here. So we have an Oasis 1996 photo pass. We have what's that from? VIP from Main Road, a wristband. So these are just little bits and pieces I picked up from Kyle from the Oasis Collectors Group. And so I suppose that the main thing to say really is that these have been Patreon gifts over the years. I've still got a few of these bits and pieces left. But the Patreon, obviously massive thanks to the people who've supported on Patreon. Things like microphones and setups and things, the Patreon has paid for all of that. So it's fantastic. So I've not had to really dip into personal money too much to do the podcast stuff, which has been fantastic. So it's I say it every episode, but it is greatly appreciated, and it blows me away that people do that. And how do I repay people? I forget to do free stuff on the Patreon, which is just on me completely 100%. I should, to be honest, get someone to do the Patreon for me because I'm useless at it. But yeah, so every now and then, it tends to be like once a year, I'll chuck a Patreon gift out. So another Patreon gift that went out, which I think still needs to go out to quite a few people because I started posting them load out and then stopped, and so I still need to send a load of these out. I've still got a load to go. Is this, which if you are watching, is the Oasis Podcast Pods and Sods CD 2017 to 2021. So the photo there is us at the Water Rats on stage. That's me there singing. And then we've got the guys all... that was basically near the end of the night when loads of us got on stage and sang Champagne Supernova. And then people all had their booze on stage. And then the owner of the Water Rats came and told us all off. And so you hear it on live recording. It's like Magic Mod's there. And he said, everyone on stage. And then... No drinks off the stage. So it's, very entertaining. But anyway, that was a great night, very special. But what this CD does is it basically collates all of the random stuff, all the silly stuff I've done over the years. So, I've done little bits of recording over the years. So for instance, the first track is Alan McGee's Greatest Regret. And so what that is becoming acquainted with McGee now. I just one day said, "Oh, Alan, do you just do one little thing for me? Would you just record saying that your greatest regret was not signing my band?" And he did. So he just recorded this silly little bit saying I signed Oasis, I signed this person, I signed this person, but I never signed Vision from Oxford. They're a great band. So that was just magic to get that and send that over to the other guys from the band. It was brilliant. Obviously we've got the theme tune for the podcast. That's something that occasionally gets asked on Twitter and stuff. What's the theme song for the podcast? It's not Oasis. It is Shine On by my band Vision. So that so that was our band. That was one of the tracks that was on our we'd made a sort of a 3-track demo that was kind of sent out to people, but obviously we didn't get signed. So that's what that is, Vision Shine On, and I'll put a link in the description of this episode if you want to go and check it out. It is on YouTube if you want to listen to it. I cut it out on the podcast before my singing starts. If you want to hear the version with my singing, then you can check it out. Another one that's on here is the Oasis Podcast Patrons Acquiesce. So that was really special. That was a really special thing that we did, in lockdown, where a bunch of the guys, we've got really, really talented listeners. So a bunch of us recorded. Once again, Ryan Harvey was really pivotal in that. Khan might say as well. Mike D'Souza. I think Amy did some vocals. I think Richard No, Richard Bowes didn't do anything on that. I think Katie did some vocals on it. So yeah, loads of us did bits and pieces, and Ryan Harvey and his son played the drums on it as well. So it was really special, you know, to collaborate on something, that Acquiesce song. So that was really, really cool. It's also got me and Joel, my best mate Joel from back in the day, who was in the band. We've done a few songs over the years. So we've done a couple of songs for Christmas. We did Underneath the Christmas Sky. We actually got Julia Violinista to play violins on that. We did one called Round Our Sleigh, which was obviously a cover of Round Our Way, which was really good fun. Just little bits I've done over the years, like, you know, Oasis Podcast Dinner. So that's the one that's like, what a life it would be if you could talk Oasis with me, which is fun. Matt Morgan on the Oasis Podcast cameo. So yeah, so Ryan Harvey again sent in to Matt Morgan when he was doing an episode. He briefly did cameo. So he read so we've got 2 tracks on this. We've got him reading the cameo that I did, that Ryan bought for me. And then we've got the follow-up. So when Noel then took the piss out of Matt Morgan the next week for doing that, which was quite entertaining.
Yeah, you were in one of those stupid video messages for some poor cunt.
Oh, that. I didn't send you that. You sent me that and said, does it come to this?
Got anything better to do?
Yes, I've got lots of better things to do, but it's about earning money. The world's changed, baby. There's a pandemic on. We can't all just sit back and go, oh, how much has Wonderwall made me today? Right? I have to get out there and graft.
Would you like to know?
Yes. How much a day does Wonderwall make you?
I'm just going to sum it up in a laugh.
Have you ever could you put a figure on that?
Per day? No,
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Would you? Yeah, but you could, like, if
Yeah,
you
I suppose
phoned
you
up
could.
your money man and went, guys, by tomorrow I want to know, how much does Wonderwall make me a day?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to know because I'd probably go, is that all? Fuck's sake.
I reckon $6,000 at the moment.
A day?
Nah, it's more than that, isn't it? It's got to
I
be.
don't know. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't fucking tell you because I guess it's all wrapped up in that album, isn't it? So, who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
Well, anyway, you sent me the video of me doing a Matt Morgan cameo for the Oasis podcast, and you said, seriously, is this what it's come to? And
I sent you that video.
Yes,
Who the
Grandad.
fuck sent it me then?
Some cunt who's going, here, look what Matt's done. Look, your mate. Hawking himself like a fucking prostitute.
Oh, I bet it was Sarah.
Ah, that makes sense.
Bet it was Sarah.
Dropping me in the shit.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I've stopped doing all them anyway.
Yeah, fuck that, mate.
We've got a bit of lit live, me and Tony McCarroll. So when he started playing the drums on stage and me singing along to Supersonic, which was hilarious. We've got me being mentioned, the Oasis podcast being mentioned on Dave Berry's show. That was quite entertaining. Yeah, so there's been loads of stuff there, like just little random things I've done over the years. So yeah, that's really cool. So if you're a Patreon and you haven't got that, message me, email me, Twitter me, because that can go out to you. So yeah, and if you want to get hold of this, then you have to sign up and be a patron. And then if you want it straight away, then come in at £3 or £5 a month, because then I'll know to give it to you. But don't then cancel after a month, because that would be really rude. So yeah, so that is interesting. One of the other things on there actually is the fact that I was on the Chase, Beat the Chasers a couple of years back. So yeah, just before, well, it's more than a couple of years now, isn't it? Because it was just before COVID, basically. So yeah, I was on Beat the Chasers, which is like for those who don't know, it's like the mainstream primetime version of a quiz show called The Chase. Yeah, and I was on that, and it was quite entertaining because actually Paul Sinner, who is one of the stars of the show, one of the chasers, I know him from a previous life, and so yeah, he had a bit of banter with me about that. So that's quite funny. That's quite interesting. And I've got a little... So I didn't win anything. I lost. Obviously, it was a quiz show where you can win money, and I didn't win money. I lost quite dramatically. So literally, the only thing I've got is that, which is like they gave you a water bottle, which has got The Chase written on it. But it's kind of weird. It's sort of one of these annoying ones that's got like one of those weird things in it. So I don't even know what it is. But look, it's got James on there. and I've kept that. So anyway, so that's that's what I've got from being on Beat the Chasers. There you go. All right, what else have we got here? So we've got some DVDs. So that's my copy of the Oasis Definitely Maybe DVD. And I suppose that the main reason to pull this out, obviously other than the fact it's a bloody great album, and it's a good DVD actually. I like this. I like the package. It is very special. But yeah, so I've interviewed quite a few people over the years connected to Definitely Maybe. Obviously, I've interviewed the drummer, Tony, who is there, as we've talked about. I've interviewed Angeli Dutt, who was one of the engineers on it. I've interviewed Brian Cannon, who designed the sleeve, obviously. I've interviewed Chris Griffiths, who did From the Real People, who does backing vocals. And, I should probably be credited with quite a lot more. Does backing vocals on Supersonic. But yeah, actually probably co-wrote quite a few of the tracks and things like that. So it's been great over the years, to have been able to get to speak to people that were actually involved in in these different things was really special. That was what it was all about to me. The chance to actually ask the questions. The whole thing for me is I'm a bit of a historian, really. That's what it's like. That's what I'm interested in, the history, and I'm interested in delving in a little bit more than you normally find out. And I want to know all the stories, so not just like Liam and Noel, but actually, everyone involved in the band, like right down to, people that played. I've recently interviewed the person that plays the flute. Charlotte Glasson plays the flute on one track, Gas Panic. That to me is really interesting. You find out about her life and how she got into it and all that sort of stuff. I think that's great. And if I was looking for an Oasis podcast and there wasn't one, so I decided to do one myself, and that's exactly what I would want from an Oasis podcast. So that's why we've done it that way. But anyway, so Definitely Maybe, what an album. And I've interviewed loads of people connected with it. So what have we got here? We have Lord Don't Slow Me Down. This is not actually my copy. This is my mate Ben's copy, who's been on the podcast a couple of times. He came on to talk about demos, which we're going to talk about in a bit. But this is a lovely package. I mean, I always loved the Don't Slow Me Down, Lord Don't Slow Me Down package. Very nice. Don't quite get what the monkeys are all about, but there you go. And so I suppose what this one makes me think of is some people I've been, involved with that were around this time. So we've got Andy Bell, who was obviously in the band at this time. So he's really along with Tony McCarroll and Alan McGee, probably Andy Bell, having been in Oasis for so long, is such a major part of this. But, over and above that, we have people like Jet, like the guys from Jet. They're on here because they toured. They did some gigs on this tour. Plus also Davey Lane from the band UMI, because they were on this tour as well. So I think the important thing to point out is that even when Oasis, weren't quite at the peak that they were in the mid-90s, they still were doing amazing stuff, and they were still going out there and playing these incredible gigs and things like that. So it is, don't sleep on later Oasis. If it's something that you've not gone back to, there is still great stuff in later Oasis. And and I do really like this. I think it's not as good as like Supersonic and things like that, but it is still always good, worth a watch. And the commentary's great. So check that out if you haven't. What have we got here? We have Supersonic. And so I suppose with Supersonic, the key thing to mention in terms of interviews is that I've interviewed both the producer, which is Simon Halfon, and I've interviewed the director, Matt Whitecross. So both of those I really, really enjoyed. I also got the Supersonic book as well, and I went to a really good, I don't think I've got it here, I went to a really good launch event a couple of years back for that, which was really great. Met up with Britpop Memories there, that was fantastic, and saw Phil Smith there. Still won't do an interview for the podcast, but hey, there we go. But yeah, so that was really cool. This was so important and special because I suppose this was almost what re-inspired my desire to get back into Oasis, to be honest, because after BDI, I hadn't been, I thought BDI were fine. I bought both their albums. I went to see them live once. But then Supersonic coming out in 2016, I was like, really excited by it. And it was like, yeah, great. That's it sort of inspired me again to sort of think more about Oasis. And I had talked about doing an Oasis podcast for years and just never got around to it. But actually then a bit of that sort of, bubbling back up to the surface, I was like, yeah, let's do an Oasis podcast. And it was getting an iPhone, really. That was the thing. I was like, okay, I've now got the ability to record and upload in a really easy way. So that was the plan. Simon Halfon, great guy, fantastic guy. He's, as I said, I've interviewed him, not just on this, but also sleeve designer as well. Talking about later Oasis, he designed so many of those later sleeves that once again, they don't get the same love as like the 90 sleeves that Brian Cannon did, but still some really, really great sleeves in there. Still some really interesting designs. Matt Whitecross as well. What a lovely guy. Really lovely guy. Lived in Oxford as well. So you have always that Oxford connection. And really enjoyed that interview. Just annoys me that, this is only like an hour and a half and they've got like 8 hours of footage. So it's so annoying because I'd love to have, there's hours and hours of audio just sitting in somewhere on someone's hard drive or whatever. Give it to me. I'll put it out on the Oasis podcast, but it's not happening now, is it? That boat has sailed. What have we got here? So here's one of our Patreon gifts. That's a Christmas card that we did a couple of years back. That is designed by our friend Columbia Pins. Which was very cool. Oh, the only other thing I suppose I didn't mention, the logo, the famous Oasis podcast logo, designed by Supernova Terraceware. So that was really cool. He did a great job with that. And Columbia Pins as well. He's done a fantastic job for a few bits and pieces over the years. I did actually record an interview with Paul, who is Columbia Pins, but the sound quality was really bad, so we won't be hearing that. But yes, Paul, thank you for your time. Right, one of our good friends is Brits and Pieces. So we have here, these are actually quite hard to come by. That is volumes 1 and 2 of the Brits and Pieces CDs. So Mark, who does Brits and Pieces, is a top man. He actually messaged me the other day to see did I want a promo copy of number 4. Now, I never got a promo copy of number 3, but I didn't ask for one. I think I said, look, I don't need them. I'm sure that there's other people more deserving than me. So 1 and 2 are absolutely fantastic. I love having them in the collection. It's great to, support new music. Mark does a great job supporting new music. So many bands in there that we've discovered thanks to his work, and he's got them in the charts. These tend to hit the compilation charts, so he's doing a fantastic job. Well done, Mark. And here is another thing I got from Brits and Pieces, which is wrong way around, an Oasis Podcast tea towel, of course. So that is the Nebworth set list. So we've got Columbia at the top, which was a rubbish way to start a gig. Acquiesce, Supersonic, hello, there you go. That is a tea towel with the Oasis set list on it. What a great idea. But yeah, so Mark sent me that as well. What a top man. But yeah, so that's part of the collection. That's not being given away. And I'll never use it to dry up dishes with either. That's being kept. So thank you very much, Mark, you legend. Right, what else are we going to go through here? So I've got some CDs here. This is Be Here Now, you might know it. And that's got a $3.99 sticker on it because I bought this from Sifters. When I went up to Manchester a few years back, it was actually on St. Paddy's Day. We've just had St. Paddy's Day here. Just gone March 17th. And and it reminded me actually of St. Paddy's Day a few years back where I went out with Mary McGuigan. I met up with Mary and we did a fantastic interview, walked around Levenshulme, and she showed me where her and Gwigsy grew up and like the park where Noel used to hide up a tree and all this sort of stuff. It was really great. It was really lovely to have a stroll around with Mary and have a chat and record, which was fantastic. And I went into Sifters on the way there. So before I met up with Mary in Levenshulme, I went into Burnage. Looked up at Peggy's house, didn't knock the door because I'm not a freak, but went into Burnage, went into Sifters, and went and had a chat. Did a little record as well, and great to talk to Pete there, the owner, and and wanted to buy something because I felt like, I've taken up his time, got a photo, but I wanted to buy something, and he doesn't have, just memorabilia and stuff. So it was just like, well, he happened to have Be Here Now. So I thought, well, I'll buy Be Here Now then. Because you can never have too many copies of Be Here Now. It is the best album of all time. So so that was really cool. That was really good to get that. So I'll always keep that little sticker on because that reminds me it's from Sifters. I've got some bootlegs here. So bootlegs, a massive part of Oasis fandom. For so many of us that grew up in the 90s. So what have we got here? And a bunch of these, because I did give away a lot of my bootlegs as Patreon gifts. But also, I bought a load off our mate Ben Higgins. So I mentioned Ben earlier. So we have Oasis Unplugged Volume 2. We have Live on Swedish Radio 94 plus more. We have Oasis The Untold Story, which is all of the Better Let You Know and Snakebite and all those. And we have this, which is the audiobook of Brothers, the Paul Gallagher on tape. So that's good. Happy with that. So they're really great. I mean, it was such an important part of the Oasis story to be able to get these, recorded off Swedish radio. There was no YouTube, there was no way of getting hold of these things. But to have had Live Forever recorded on MTV's Most Wanted, Married with Children, Acoustic Session, Sunrise Records, Toronto, October 94, Chipper SOB and Wonder Picket Fence. These were the magical nuggets that we needed as Oasis fans, and we're really, really pleased to get them. This is cool. So these are little coasters. So there's a Wonderwall one. I've got a Don't Look Back and Anger one as well, which I'm currently using for my cup of tea, but I'll show you it. So that's the Don't Look Back and Anger one as well. So they're just cool. We've got a few like David Bowie and Kate Bush and things like that. But I can't remember the company they're from. I think I've got them from a stall in Birmingham or whatever. But Manchester, I think. I think they're at Salford. In that big market out by Media City. But anyway, they're really great. So I love those. So there's Oasis Nebworth, 1996, which I suppose is there to remind me that, I was at Nebworth. What is that? Rock and Roll Star Brit Awards 2007. Why have I got a random picture of Sharon Osbourne on the TV? Anyway, Nebworth Park, 1996. I was there. I was also at the Liam show a couple of years back. Yeah, really great. Why is it not that? Why is it the wrong picture? That annoys me so much. Yes, that was the picture on the poster or whatever, but it's so stupid. And it's such a horrible shot as well. What's Liam doing with his teeth? I hate that. But anyway, it's a great, a great document from the time. And very special. Went to see it at the cinema when it came out, same as the Liam one as well. So all good. Wonderful. Right, what else we got? We got some books here. So this is Get on the Roller Coaster, Oasis in New Zealand, March 1998 by Kaz Sahota, who I interviewed a few months ago. So really great piece of work that is. And I suppose the key thing for me about this is that we are now reaching a level of Oasis fandom that where I want it to be. We've got Beatles books. You can't see them. I've got a whole rack of Beatles books down there. You get these sort of Beatles books that are really, really deep, and they go into real great detail. We've never had that on Oasis. It's been really limited. There's been quite a lot of Oasis books, but they're really basic. And so to actually have something that in-depth just on the few days they spent in New Zealand is brilliant. That's exactly what we need. And big up Kaz for doing it. And more people should do it. Why have we got one on Oasis when they toured Japan? We should have that. That would be fantastic. Don't Look Back in Anger, Growing Up with Oasis, Chris Hutton, which was great, fantastic. And I got to meet Chris Hutton But he didn't do an interview because he doesn't want to do interviews, which is a shame. But, you know, it's up to him. You can't force the guy to do something. He's very happy with his life. And the Oasis thing is done. But yes. And then finally, first I'll just talk about this little fella. So that is, it's a little birthday present that my daughter made for me a few years ago. And that, if you recognise the shirt, she said to me randomly, like, "Oh, Dad, what's your favourite Liam Gallagher outfit?" I said, "Earl's Court 1995, of course. Like, why would that even be a question?" But yeah, so she went and found it and she made that. And what's quite funny is that is my profile picture on like WhatsApp, I think, on my personal WhatsApp. And I think I've put it on Instagram at some point, or I put it on Twitter at some point, but didn't like pin it or anything. It was a random post. Years later, like someone replied to one of my tweets, and they had my WhatsApp profile, a picture of this fella, as their profile. And I was so like freaked out by it. I was like, "What's going on? Is there a glitch in the Matrix?" But yeah, no, it wasn't. It was just that this guy had found this picture of this little doll thing and thought it was cool. And so he wanted to make that his profile. But it was just very strange because that's my WhatsApp profile. Anyway, that was quite entertaining. And then finally, I suppose one of the major highlights of my time doing the podcast is having a book published. You know, really exciting. You know, and I suppose not just because, you know, it was done by Richard, who's become a good friend, but also the fact that, you know, it's sort of it really then collated those first sort of few years of the interviews I did. You know, I was very aware that we suddenly had this treasure trove of kind of stuff, and I'd loved the idea of having an Oasis book, but, you know, was I ever actually going to get around to writing it? Richard, actually, he can knock out words at an alarming rate if you follow his works. He's got a crazy work ethic. He can knock them out, and they're good as well, don't get me wrong, but he's really impressive on that front. And so we got this together. Richard made contact with this company, This Day in Books, just because he bought a few of their other books and he thought they were good and he thought they might be a good fit. And we put it together, and and they were sort of pretty. As soon as we just said, "Look, an Oasis book, the history of Oasis from day one to the end. It's never been done before, and we can call it the official book of the Oasis podcast, and the Oasis podcast gets X thousand listens per month. Wow, yeah, great, go for it." And so we did. So it was really, really cool. Interviews including Alan McGee, Tony McCarroll, Paolo Hewitt, Colin Patterson, Pete Mitchell, Nigel Dick. Pete Mitchell's dead now. That was sad. Pete Mitchell and Andre Barrow from the Bootleg Beatles, the two people I've interviewed that have died, which is quite a sad way to leave this. But anyway, I suppose that's the key thing really is... wait, who's that? That's Ian Brown. What's he got to do with Oasis? Anyway, there we go. So we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening to my ramblings. 250 episodes. It's been a real special, you know, journey. I hate it when people use journey on TV and stuff, but I think you've got to say it's a journey from, you know, me being, what was I when I first set this up? It was April the 6th, 2017. So I was not quite 37. I was 36 years old. I'm now 43, and it's almost 7 years. It'll be 7 years on the 6th of April. So, you know, that's not too far away. And 250 episodes. So, really, really chuffed to get through it. If you think about it, there was a few different stages. Like the first few, you know, I didn't know what it was going to be. And then pretty quickly we got kind of some really good interviews. You know, we got like... Mark Feltham, and then Brian Cannon, and then like Steve White, Paolo Hewitt, like they all came pretty quick within that first sort of 12 or 15. Tony McCarroll, I think, was that early. And so to have got those interviews in was really great. And then, so following that, then to have, that was then my calling card to get more people. So I kind of very quickly, if you go through those first sort of, 60 episodes or something, there's loads and loads of interviews. I'm getting people like Matt Dayton, who played on that tour in 2000. I'm getting like all these sort of people. Obviously I'm struggling to get the main band members. Like we've said, we've only had Tony McCarroll and Andy Bell, but pretty much everyone else that's been connected to them, played with them, engineered and stuff, we've got them. Anyone that's out there and available, we've pretty much got. The only ones I've not really pushed for is, it tends to be people that have done a lot already and have answered the questions that I want answered, because it's not just like an ego boost for me to have them on the podcast, but actually if they've already done like a really in-depth interview talking about their time working with Oasis, then what am I going to add to it? I'm just going to ask the same question. So kind of what's the point? So for instance, Gem, I've tried to get Gem on a few times, but it hasn't happened. But to be fair, he did a really good interview with Stage Left podcast. So what am I going to add that Stage Left didn't cover? Not very much. So not too bothered. Same as Paul Gallagher. Paul Gallagher did a great interview with Stage Left. Am I going to bring anything else to it? Probably not. So actually, Paul, if you're listening, you want to come on, fantastic, we'll do it. But I'm not that desperate to get him on, because what has he told? What has he not said to other people that he might say to me? Probably nothing. So I'm not going to add to the conversation. So that's not a major concern for me. And then the last thing I'll show you is this, which is my. So it's another thing we've done a few of. That's the most recent Patreon gift, which was this little thing. We were talking about Britpop, because we often talk about Britpop in this world. And I kind of had this idea of like, well, what is Britpop? Who are, is this person Britpop or what? And I sort of said, well, it's not really like you are or you aren't. It's kind of like, you won't be able to see this there, but really. So you've got like rock at the top. You've got like baggy stroke shoegaze at the bottom. You've got dance, and you've got arty. And for me, most people that were active in the mid-90s that are kind of in the world of Britpop can sort of be pulled into one of those different directions. So dead centre, you've got like Shed 7, Menswear, Catatonia, Cooler Shaker, Candy Skins, Boo Radleys. These guys are pretty much as Britpop as it gets. Then as you move out towards rock, you get like Garbage, Heavy Stereo, Mannix, Cast, Seahorses. If you pull more towards pop and dance, you've got like Republica, Shampoo, if we count them as Britpop, Primal Scream, McCalmont and Butler. There's people like that. More down to baggy and shoegaze, you've got like Ride, Lush, The Lars, Teenage Fan Club, Charlatans. And out towards arty, you've got then like Belle and Sebastian, Radiohead, Marion, Gene, so that sort of thing. So anyway, so that's my overall kind of wheel of Britpop of, who is Britpop, who isn't Britpop. And then that little, I thought this was as good place as any to have it. That is an Andy Bell plectrum. So that is signed by Andy Bell, and that is from our good friends at the Oasis Collectors Group. That was actually at the event they did with Tony McCarroll over at Rockfield Studios. So that was another one that I've recorded and done an episode on. That was over at Rockfield there with Nick Bryan was there. We had a fantastic day. Kyle has got these unheard demos, which he played, these unheard Oasis songs, which he played, which was great to have those played over the big speakers and, grown men in tears listening to them. And so that was a fantastic day, and hopefully Carl will do some more of those. So I'd definitely love to get along. This time I ended up arriving late and didn't get to see Tony actually because we just missed him. But he'd actually jammed with the guys. So the guys had turned up, brought their instruments to play in Rockfield, but then also got to jam with Tony McCarroll. Like, amazing. How else could you get that? What other band could you just get that random experience with? So absolutely incredible. But yeah, that's us. So, 250 episodes. Thank you to everyone who's been involved. Thank you to the patrons. especially the guys in the Discord who are really active. Big up to Sue, our Sue, as you know, who struggling at the moment fighting the old cancer. You're doing a great job, and we're all thinking of you. And I think that'll do it for today. So this is episode 250 from the world famous Supernova Studios, or I might change it if someone wants to give me a different name for it. But anyway, I think that'll do it for today. I've been talking non-stop for 52 minutes. So, as ever, stay in touch, stay engaged, and stay young.